Okay, so we are going to start today talking about colonizing America. We're going to look at four major themes: Native American societies prior to 1491, factors that led to world exploration, economic and political motivations for Spain, Britain, France, and the Netherlands, and lastly, the Protestant Reformation leading to the settlement at Plymouth. So the first thing we want to look at is the map of the Bering Strait, which before it became the Bering Strait was an actual landmass known as the land bridge. And so this is the belief that this is where the indigenous people that lived in what is today North America actually came from, that they have Asian descent and that they have inhabited this area. And as they made it, further south, they were able to utilize the land for farming and hunting and really kind of set up really interesting societies. So Native American societies, some were very, very much so permanent, like you saw along the Mississippi River, where they could farm and actually live without having to constantly move. And then, of course, some you had that were nomadic. But each one of these societies were typically very small and somewhat scattered. A lot of that had to do with the fact that it was, there was geography and topography kind of in the way. But the key thing to the Native American societies is that they were sophisticated societies. They had real culture. They had education. They had moral codes. They followed normal society situations like you would see in today's societies, laws and religion and so on and so forth. So the one thing that we're going to see with the Native American societies that really kind of hinders their ability to survive the Europeans' arrival is that they're so scattered, they're not connected well, they have language barriers, and so they're not united. And when the Europeans come, they don't fight against them, at least not in numbers like they should. So not only are the indigenous people going to be wiped out because of European diseases, as we know, but we're also going to see a problem with them coming together as one and actually fighting back. So the next thing we want to look at here are the factors that led to world exploration. The first thing we need to look at is a need for a new route to Asia. What happens is Constantinople is going to be taken over by the Muslim Turks. And when they do that and they turn Constantinople into Istanbul, they kind of close off that trade that was the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. And so now there's a need to look for a new route. So that leads us to Diaz. Diaz decides to go around Africa, and when he's trying to do this, he tries to bump along the coastline, and it's not effective because he keeps running aground. He's afraid that he's going to get stuck in some of these storms that seem to be prevalent, and so he starts to kind of take the risk of going out a little bit further, and he realizes that the Atlantic has very specific currents, and he uses them to his favor. Once these kind of things are discovered, it allows for more exploration to happen because now this is going to be charted, and they'll figure out how to utilize these aspects of the globe to their favor. Another example of a factor would be Ferdinand and Isabella's the fact that they're so young. They're also willing to take risks, and so they take, of course, the risk of funding Columbus. Other things that you're going to see would be technology. We're going to have the option of new sails, faster ships, compasses that will be invented. We have the printing press, so information will get out to other people about exploration. Society starts to break down. You now have a middle class that didn't exist before in the feudal system. And then you have a new type of government that is decided and set up with the Magna Carta, which now limits the power of the king. And because his power is limited, he now has to justify his actions to the people, and he has to protect their rights. So as you can see, exploration after Columbus to the New World is going to just flourish. And there's going to be several people that are going to take on this risk and reap quite a bit of reward. So let's first look at Spain's motivation. Their focus here is to gain power. And the way they're going to do that is through land. So as we know, Ferdinand and Isabella will send Columbus, and he sets sail. He is very successful. He thinks he lands in India. Of course, he does not. And he actually lands in what is today the Dominican Republic. So 2 years later, Isabella and Ferdinand make a treaty with Portugal, known as the Treaty of Tordesillas, and they decide to divide the land that is what is today South America. And so Portugal will take what is today Brazil, and Spain will take the rest. So Isabella and Ferdinand start sending out as many conquistadors as they can to claim land in the name of Spain. So Spain starts to dominate because now they're, not only do they have the land, which of course equals power, but now they're starting to extract the gold and silver from these areas. And they start bringing it home. And silver at that point then becomes a universal currency across the globe, sparking globalization. Globalization really does begin with exploration. Now, the conquistadors are a group of explorers who are known for their ruthless behavior. They enslaved the indigenous people, they killed the indigenous people, all in the name of claiming land for Spain and gaining all that gold and silver. And so as you can see in the map here, you see several different conquistadors that made it from one place to the next, all searching for something in particular. Gold, Fountain of Youth, those kind of things. All right, now what opens the door to British exploration? What happens here is, surprisingly, the conquistadors bring back so much gold and silver, it creates an incredible amount of inflation and actually puts Spain into a very, very deep depression. And because of that, they have to start borrowing just to keep their colonies going. So Britain takes advantage of this and decides to go to war with Spain because Spain's ships were blocking exploration to the New World. So the British Royal Navy is going to attack the Spanish Armada, and in 1588, the Royal Navy destroys the Spanish Armada, now allowing for Britain to become the most powerful navy in the world and open the door for exploration. So the economic and political motivations for Britain are as follows. There was just a need for leaving England. It was overcrowded. It was difficult to find a job. There was extreme oppression if you were the religion that was not the religion of the nation, which was the Anglican religion. And there was a need to, just kind of find new things, explore new territories. And so Britain will set up their original colony in Roanoke, which will end up dying out. And there's a bit of a mystery there. We're not really sure exactly what happened. But they're going to send another group, and they will settle what becomes Jamestown in 1607. And so this next film clip that you see here will talk about Jamestown and the value of tobacco. The original thought was that they would go to Jamestown and find gold, but they didn't. They found green gold, if you will, and that changed the economic landscape for Britain. So the economic and political motivations for France are also commercial. More specifically, it would be with the fur trade. And what's interesting here is that you're going to see the French actually create a relationship with the natives. Instead of killing them, they actually befriended them. But very few people actually immigrated to the New World. There really was no need to leave France. There was land, there were jobs, there was really no religious persecution. So there was not a whole settlement that really kind of took hold like you're going to see with Britain. And so you can see there in that blue areas where the French start to kind of create their empire. But again, kind of weak because there's not enough settlement there. Now, the economic and political motivations for the Dutch are quite simple. They're just interested in a commercial trade aspect. They wanted to be able to control what is today New York and just keep their this constant trade and commercial nature of this colony. Very few people, again, emigrate, and they're going to be kicked out very quickly by King Charles II in 1664. All right, now the Protestant Reformation is going to create a considerable amount of tension within England and really across Europe, but it opens the door for more migration to the New World. In 1517, we're going to have Martin Luther and his 95 Theses that he kind of attacks the Catholic Church and starts to question the parameters and the laws that are being followed within the Catholic Church, calling it oftentimes corrupt. That's going to spark Calvinism, which will begin with John Calvin, and they begin to start to question the Anglican Church, which is very similar to the Roman Catholic Church. So from Calvinism, it spurs the Puritan faith and this need to purify the Anglican Church. When the Puritans realize that this is not going to work, they then decide to just leave. And so they go to the Netherlands, and then they finally find their home in what is today Massachusetts. And so when they come to the New World, they arrive with the separatists who wanted to leave the Anglican Church altogether. The Puritans wanted to purify the Anglican Church, but regardless, the two groups are going to come together on the Mayflower, and they were all considered the Pilgrims. So that leads us to this next clip that will define the trip, the voyage, and the beginnings of the colony. But it also talks about the very intense hardships that were faced by this original group. And so for your homework, I need you to analyze the effects of world exploration. Find out, think long term as well as short term. Decide what exactly came of this world exploration.